word. And
we'll just be here for support and chat, guys.
Okay. Good morning, all. Thanks for joining. Sorry for getting it started a little bit late here. We're having some technical difficulties, but I think we got it all figured out. And I'll just let the participant list keep filling up here, and we'll give another minute for folks to join us and get their audio connected. And Sarah, do you know, is 40 about what everybody we had in the waiting room?
yes, and now we don't have the waiting room enabled anymore, so anybody who will join will come directly into the meeting.
Gotcha. All right, sounds good. Well, we'll go ahead and get started. So again, thank you for joining us. Welcome to our National Apprenticeship Week event. We'll be discussing apprenticeships in new and emerging industries, particularly those related to the Climate and Equitable Jobs Act. We're excited to have you join us to share some information about what apprenticeships are, what CEJA is, and how we can work together to create and expand apprenticeships that can help your business and help the state meet its ambitious renewable energy targets. I'm Nate Keener, the CEJA Regional Administrator for the Central Region for the Department of Commerce and Economic Opportunity. I'll be joined today by a few colleagues. Linda Larson is the Education and Communications Director at the Smart Energy Design Assistance Center, or CEDAC. We'll share information about what apprenticeships are, the benefits, as well as what CEJA is and how CEJA needs apprentices. We'll then hear from Robert Hattier from IBEW Local 134 about his experiences with apprenticeships. Next, we'll have John Michael from Social Kitchen to share his experiences with apprenticeships. And finally, Dirk Leffler, Business Services Specialist for Workforce Office of Western Illinois, will give you next steps to get started with apprenticeships, and he is an apprenticeship navigator. So with that said, I would ask that you please hold your questions until the end, and we can go ahead and get started. So, what are apprenticeships? So this is kind of an agenda for my section of the presentation here. We're going to go over the 7 elements of apprenticeship, the kinds of apprenticeships, some common myths about apprenticeships, partnerships, key roles, and designing apprenticeships. So next slide, please. So what are apprenticeships? Well, as it says on the screen there, apprenticeships are an industry-driven, high-quality career pathway where employers develop and prepare their future workforce, and individuals obtain paid work experience and receive progressive wage increases in classroom instruction. And if you're already experienced with apprenticeships, a lot of these next few slides will be not new information for you, but we hope you can stick around because we're going to be talking a lot about some new opportunities with CEJA. And of course, we want to bring on some new folks who maybe don't have experience with apprenticeships yet. You see on the slide there that the apprenticeship approach involves combining a paid job with supplemental education and then ending in a nationally recognized portable credential. Next slide, please. Okay, I'm sorry. The 7 elements of apprenticeships. And so they are industry-led. Registered apprenticeship programs are industry vetted and business driven. Apprenticeships are aligned with industry standards, and apprentices are trained for highly skilled in-demand jobs. Another element is that apprenticeships are paid jobs. They get progressive wage increases as they attain skills and competency in their role. Another element is on-the-job learning and mentoring. And this means that while you are working this job, you're also getting guidance from an experienced mentor. You also get supplemental education. So apprentices are provided supplemental classroom instruction based on the employer's unique training needs. This can be provided by many types of organizations like community colleges, other education and training providers, even the employer themselves. Another element, diversity. Programs are designed to reflect the communities in which they operate and to include strong non-discrimination, anti-harassment, and recruitment practices to ensure equity, access, and inclusion. So they can also help meet companies' diversity and inclusion goals. Quality and safety is paramount. Apprentices are afforded worker protections and receive rigorous training and supervision, safety first. And then, as I mentioned, credentials. So apprentices earn a portable, nationally recognized credential. Next slide, please. Thank you. So advantages of registered apprenticeship programs. So we'll talk about RAPs a lot, registered apprenticeship programs, but there are non-registered apprenticeship programs as well. But we, of course, encourage the use of registered apprenticeship programs as those are registered and approved by the Federal Department of Labor, while the non-registered apprenticeships are not. RAPs being registered are easier to find. They come with additional resources like state and federal funding, state tax credits, and technical assistance. There are also different ways of tracking an apprentice's progress through the program. Next slide. Either through time-based or competency-based and hybrid apprenticeship systems. So in time-based programs, these programs are based on the number of instruction hours in classroom and on-the-job training. These are good for occupations where repetition is a good way to learn the skills, and sometimes training hours are required for licensure. So those kinds of programs align with jobs where those factors come into play. Competency-based apprenticeships are evaluated based on demonstrating competency. And those can be self-paced as long as the apprentice is showing progress toward meeting those competencies. And then hybrid systems are obviously a combination of both time-based and competency-based, where an apprentice must attain a set of competencies within a range of hours. Next slide, please. So just to cover a few myths that a lot of people kind of have about apprenticeships. The one is that apprenticeship programs are just for unions. And while it is true that most of the apprenticeship programs in Illinois, especially in construction and building trades, are union programs, not all of them are. And many non-union businesses are also taking advantage of apprenticeships. Next slide, please. Another myth, apprenticeship programs are just for big employers or groups of employers. As the bubbles indicate here, a single employer could have an apprenticeship program, a large or small employer could have an apprenticeship program, and of course, groups of employers could start apprenticeship programs as well. Next slide. Another myth, apprenticeships are just for the trades, and again, you know, a long history of that association of apprenticeship programs being common in the trades. Of course they are, but we are seeing a lot of other non-traditional apprenticeship programs popping up in sectors like healthcare or business services, IT, and even food service. Next slide. So why apprenticeships? Well, there are a number of benefits. On the employer side, apprenticeships are, you know, going through industry vetted programs, so they have industry relevance. They have skills relevant to that industry. That helps employers reduce their skills gap. It helps with workplace integration and meeting diversity and inclusion goals. Creates a culture of learning and development. And apprenticeship programs are great for worker retention. On the apprentice side, apprenticeships provide hands-on training, allowing individuals to acquire practical skills, knowledge in a specific field. They offer clear career pathways for career advancement. Participants can start at entry-level positions and gradually progress to more specialized roles. This upward mobility is essential for personal growth and professional development. It's an earn while you learn model, and so apprentices are, you know, many people can't afford to quit their job to go back and get instruction, and so with apprenticeships, you're earning wage while you're learning the skills. And then, as we'll get into with CEJA, there are a number of benefits, beneficial support systems that are associated with a lot of these programs, especially with CEJA, to help the apprentice stay in those programs and get the most out of them. Next slide, please. So how much does it cost? Well, every business and every program are different, so costs can vary, but one thing we want to focus on is return on investment, and a 2016 study commissioned by DOL showed an ROI of $1.44. So that means for every dollar put into an apprenticeship program by an employer, they realize $1.44 in gains on the back end of that. And then we also want to point out the $3,500 tax credit for defraying the educational costs, plus an additional $1,500 for apprentices or businesses from underserved areas, and that's per year per apprentice. Next slide. So now kind of talking about some of the partnerships and the roles in apprenticeships. Here you see in the slices of the pie here some of the different roles of apprenticeship programs. And many apprenticeship programs are partnerships between several organizations. Some organizations can play multiple roles. Sometimes a single employer fills all the roles. So consider who your partners could be, consider what capacity you might have, and if there are gaps in your capacity to fulfill some of the roles that I'm going to talk about here in a second. What are the partners that can help meet those goals? Next slide, please. Oh, you got it. So the apprenticeship sponsor role registers and administers the apprenticeship program. They're the ones responsible for ensuring the program runs smoothly, taking care of most of the paperwork, really the point person for the apprenticeship program. This role can be filled by a business, a labor union, a college, a workforce development org, or a community-based organization. Next slide. The employer role. So the employer, as I say, can take on different roles, but in the specific role as the employer, they identify skills and knowledge apprentices will learn. They select and hire apprentices. They provide the on-the-job training, and they provide mentorship or make connections for that apprentice to the mentor. Next slide. The classroom instructor role is pretty self-explanatory. They develop curriculum in collaboration with the employer and deliver that instruction. That could be a community college, a career or technical school, the employer themselves, a labor management organization, a community-based organization, a third-party training provider. Next slide, please. And then finally, the support services provider role offers support to apprentices and employers, helps facilitate mentorships, recruits and screens candidates, provides basic skills training, and helps to reduce barriers to participation like transportation and child care. And we'll talk a little bit more about some of those as we get into the CEJA portion. Next slide. So designing an internship, I should say apprenticeship, I guess. Reach out to an apprenticeship specialist for help, and we will have Dirk Leffler is one of our navigators, and he'll talk about some of these first steps you can take here in a little while. But be thinking about some of these questions. Who can I partner with for the different apprenticeship roles? How many of those can I fill as the employer, and how many of those should I partner with to ensure that we're doing them adequately? What are my needs as the business owner or the employer? What occupations will I focus on? What are my most pressing employment needs? Will the program be time-based or competency-based? What aligns more with the kind of work that is happening in your business? And what credentials will the apprentices earn? Again, focusing on those nationally recognized portable credentials. How does a program become a registered apprenticeship? Identify who is the sponsor that's going to be responsible for all that paperwork and alignment of those things. What will the training look like? How can I reduce barriers to entry and participation to make sure that once we get apprentices hired, they can actually stay in those roles? And who are the subject matter experts who can help? So that's just a little teaser on apprenticeships to get you start thinking about those roles. Now I would like to invite Linda Larson up to talk a little bit about CEJA. And as I mentioned at the beginning here, Linda Larson is the Education and Communications Director at CEDAC.
Thank you, Nate, and it's a pleasure to be here. I know some of you are already established apprenticeship programs, and some of you may be employers who are or training providers who may be considering starting an apprenticeship program. We're glad that all of you are here. And my portion of the presentation today is really going to focus in on CEJA, or the Climate and Equitable Jobs Act. And why I'm here is that we are really putting out a call for apprenticeship expansion to help grow the clean energy workforce. So just a brief background on what CEJA is. CEJA is comprehensive energy legislation that was passed a couple years ago. It centers equity and puts Illinois on track to achieve 100% renewable energy by 2050. And you can see these different pieces of the pie. It's pretty inclusive. It includes support for renewable energy, support for energy efficiency, support for electric vehicles, and it includes a big chunk of funding for equitable workforce and business development. And that is what the Department of Commerce and Economic Opportunity is. They are administering those workforce programs. A couple of the CEJA goals. CEJA is pushing for 100% renewable energy by 2050 with some interim goals. It extends existing state energy efficiency goals and has a goal to close all fossil fuel power plants by 2014 and have 1 million electric vehicles by 2030. And those are ambitious goals, and there's a tremendous amount of funding to help Illinois reach those goals, which is leading to a tremendous amount of industry growth, which is why we need more apprenticeship programs, more people in the workforce. We need your support to help meet these ambitious goals. I want to note here that there's funding not just from CEJA, that's the column on the left, where there's a significant amount of funding for renewable energy, energy storage, grid modernization, weatherization, and electric vehicles. But there is also a significant amount of money at the federal level from the Inflation Reduction Act. There's tax credits for energy efficiency, for electrification, for renewable energy, and for clean energy vehicles and infrastructure. So a little bit about the CEJA workforce programs that the Department of Commerce and Economic Opportunity are implementing. There are essentially 5 different workforce programs. You may have heard of a few of these. I won't spend a lot of time talking about them, but in general, they are training people for clean energy jobs in the solar, in the energy efficiency and wind sectors. And our goal is that clean energy employers will select or hire apprentices or entry-level workers, and then they will have the capacity to work on clean energy projects that are funded by CEJA and other programs. One of the main goals of these workforce programs is apprenticeship placement. The Climate Works pre-apprenticeship program in particular has this goal to put people into apprenticeship programs, but the Clean Jobs Workforce Network program is also invested in helping people land good quality clean energy jobs, and we know that apprenticeship programs are a good vehicle for getting there. And also want to note that the Illinois Works pre-apprenticeship program, it's been around for a few years, and it is also focused on placement in registered apprenticeship programs, particularly in the building and construction trades and manufacturing. And our big question and concern is, do we have enough apprenticeship spots for graduates of these pre-apprenticeship programs to enter? And just briefly, what a pre-apprenticeship program is that it's providing the basic construction and job readiness skills to help people succeed in a registered apprenticeship program. So if you are a clean energy employer or an employer that's interested in delivering clean energy services or products, would you consider developing an apprenticeship program? So what is a clean energy employer? If you are in the building trades, the construction, manufacturing, if you're involved in solar, wind, electric vehicle, green hydrogen, energy efficiency in any way, energy storage, grid modernization, we want to claim you, even if this is only part of your business. We're interested in working with a wide variety of employers. Also, thinking jobs that manufacture, develop, build, maintain, or provide ancillary services. So this is wide. This isn't just the construction industry. This is a wide variety of industries that make renewable energy resources or energy efficiency products that deliver these services. And this also includes administrative, sales, and other support functions within these industries. So just a few examples in these different industries that I just introduced. In the manufacturing industry, There's already a number of Illinois apprenticeship programs in these industries. Assembly technicians, for instance, or machinists, sheet metal worker, welders, construction. There are also a number of apprenticeship programs in these industries, and maintenance. So thinking about automotive mechanics or bus mechanics, for instance, electricians, they do maintenance work in addition to the construction industry, energy auditor, wind turbine technician, or HVAC mechanic. So I'm hoping that some of you on the call already have apprenticeship programs. And our request to you is to consider increasing the number of apprenticeship openings. There's a tremendous amount of growth in this industry. We're interested in seeing if we can increase the number of apprenticeship openings. And then also considering how your training might evolve to take advantage of clean energy opportunities. And I know some people on the call are already doing that, and that's exciting. Electrician apprenticeships, for instance, that are adding solar or EV infrastructure training to their curriculum. Roofers or carpenters also are starting to incorporate solar training into their curriculum. Iron workers, we know they are helping to install wind turbines and adding that to their training. HVAC installers and technicians, we have a tremendous need to have them also have awareness of heat pump technologies, which are going to be a big part of the clean energy transition. So if you have an existing apprenticeship program, we'd love to talk to you about how you could grow and diversify your program by connecting with the CEJA workforce programs. And I've put a little bit of contact information here. We'll share these slides. Your first point of contact might be one of the CEJA regional administrators. These folks, you met Nate already, who was the first speaker. They are willing and excited to talk to you about your program, about the opportunities for you to engage CEJA. So we'd encourage you to learn more about the CEJA workforce programs, get announcements about program launch. The website is here. And if you have a question, we have a general email address, and we'd be happy to answer that question. So the next portion of our presentation today, we're going to be talking, we're going to be hearing from actual apprenticeship programs. I'm delighted to introduce Robert Hattier. He's the Executive Director of Illinois IBEW Renewable Energy Fund, Local 134. And this is an established union apprenticeship program. And we're excited about this one in particular because it has evolved to take advantage of clean energy opportunities. So we'll be hearing from him first. And then we wanted to share an example of a non-traditional apprenticeship program to show how even small businesses can take advantage of apprenticeship programs. So I'd like to introduce you to John Michael of Social Kitchen Food Truck. This isn't necessarily a clean energy business, but this is a good example of how small businesses can take advantage of apprenticeship programs to grow their business. So we'll be hearing from both of them, and I'll turn it over to Robert.
All right, thank you. Hopefully everyone can hear me okay. My name is Robert Hattier. I am a business representative with IBEW Local 134, where I specialize in the renewable energy side of our industry. So that includes solar, energy storage, wind, EV charging, energy efficiency, and everything that's coming next. We're a continuously evolving program. More importantly, I am a graduate of IBEW Local 134's apprenticeship program. And that's actually a very important aspect to this. When we talk about apprenticeship, we're talking about, maybe individual tasks like may have been mentioned in previous slides, but really this is an all-encompassing program that covers all aspects of electrical work. We have been covering photovoltaic energy or photovoltaic systems since 2002. 2005 is when we became a NABCEP registered training provider, And at the time, it was called the Certificate of Knowledge Exam Provider. Now that program is currently known as the NABCEP PV Associate Exam Provider. So we have been heavily involved in this industry from the very beginning. My personal history is I actually came to IBEW Local 134 as someone that already had a passion for renewable energy. I was working on off-grid solar electric systems on the West Coast. I knew I was moving back to Chicago, and the day after I arrived with my Penske truck to move into my apartment out here is when I applied for our apprenticeship, because I knew, already being in the industry, the way to succeed in this industry is to know everything about these electrical systems that we're installing. The emerging technologies that we're all talking about today, the emerging technologies that CEJA has a focus on, are all electrical systems, whether it's generation, distribution, storage, or usage. And so really getting into the industry very early on, I realized that is the path that would be the most success in this industry. The further my introduction, I am the executive director of the Illinois IBEW Renewable Energy Fund. That is our statewide training organization. We are authorized under CEJA, the Future Energy Jobs Act. The Craft Apprenticeship Program is the program that we facilitate. Is now currently under a grant with the Department of Commerce and Economic Opportunity as it continues through the CEJA cycle we're in right now. We have partnered with all 17 IBEW locals in the state of Illinois. First thing we did was bring everyone's curriculum up to speed. Like I said, Local 134 here in Cook County, we've been doing this training for a long time. We had a very established program. I'm a former instructor from that school as well. But the other locals where they weren't seeing as much solar in the early days, they had solar training, but it wasn't where it needed to be, knowing that once CEJA was passed, the amount of work we were going to see in our state. So the first thing that we did is make sure we're covering every state in Illinois, or every part of the state of Illinois. Other partnerships we have are high schools. We currently have 5 high school partners offering electrical safety, and solar training in the senior year as a pathway into our apprenticeship programs. And importantly, as was mentioned before, is we have a pre-apprenticeship program right after high school. So people essentially, before they take a spot in an apprenticeship program, they have that time. So yes, the soft skills are very important. Work ethic, conflict resolution, all the things that go into soft skills are very important. But we also want to make sure that people are ready for a career, not just a job in the construction industry. When somebody's graduating high school and then 2 months later, they're now waking up at 4 o'clock in the morning to get to a job site every day, that's a major shift in somebody's life. And yes, it's that pathway to a career, and not everyone may be ready for that step yet. So the pre-apprenticeship program is also beneficial to our apprenticeship programs and our employers, because it kind of self-select some of the individuals that get in. They realize it's not for them, or maybe not for them at this given time. That maybe they want to pursue some other pathways before they come into the construction trades. We have several other partnerships with community groups and all that, but I know this conversation is about apprenticeship. And as a graduate, I will say the best decision I ever made in my life was applying for our apprenticeship. When I go out, we do career exploration events continuously. We're at high schools, we're at career fairs, job fairs, at community-based organizations. And my only regret, the one that I share with everyone, is that it took me so long to find this pathway. We all know how high school programs have geared people towards college for a long time. I don't see this as an either or, you either go college route or you go to the trades. I am more of a both and perspective on this, especially considering in our apprenticeship programs, you're earning college credit at no cost while you're in the program as well too. So when somebody is through the 3rd year of our apprenticeship, they're only 3 classes away from an associate's degree in construction management that they also did not have to pay for. So the economic benefits are astronomical when it comes to the earn while you learn. But there's other aspects in there too, because it's not just that paycheck. Coming through our program as they become a member, they are also getting all their health and welfare covered. They have health insurance for themselves and their dependents. They're starting that retirement savings, which does not come out of their paycheck. It's in addition to what they earn on the job. They're building that solid retirement very early on and all throughout the apprenticeship. So even before most people are even considering retirement, they've already have that nest egg building and accruing as time goes on. But getting back to emerging technologies, as I said, I mean, at the heart, all of these systems that are covered under CEJA, the Climate Equitable Jobs Act, are electrical systems. And not only are they individually electrical systems, they're all interacting with existing electrical systems. So really that comprehensive knowledge is required. I mentioned before, I came from this industry, or came to our apprenticeship from the solar industry, and I knew solar. But at that time, I did not know the entire the entire system that we were interacting with, right? That's what came through that knowledge of going through and on the job training. Electricians have been installing electrical systems since 1891 when the IBEW was first organized. And then we have continuously evolved with technology, and think about all the changes that have happened since then. We have always changed. We have always updated our curriculum. We have always brought in, you know, when you talk about instruction, these are people who are coming from the field. Like when I taught at our apprenticeship school, I wasn't out of college coming in. I came from the field. So it's that experience that gets handed down. In addition to that, the on-the-job training, 8,000 hours is our program. And all that on-the-job training, every person that goes through our program is a student out in the field, but more importantly, they're also a teacher. Because as you become a second and third year apprentice, there are new first years coming in, new pre-apprentices coming on the job sites behind you, and you have that opportunity then to share your experience, your skills, everything you have. So all of that knowledge that is in the industry stays within it. We don't have the brain drain that happens as people retire, because we're constantly sharing skills. We're constantly learning from each other and teaching each other. When it comes to emerging technologies too, we always have to be considerate of what's coming on the horizon. Just because we understand how to install one type of photovoltaic system or one particular technology when it comes to energy storage, 6 months later, a year later, the systems that are coming out deployed on our job sites may be dramatically different. So curriculum has to be constantly upgraded. Codes and standards evolve on a 3-year cycle throughout these industries. Illinois is very complicated because we don't do any statewide adoption of these codes. So that was one of the big hurdles that we had when we wanted to revamp all the solar curriculum. The codes that were enforced downstate were dramatically different from the Chicago electrical code or anything in the northern parts of the state. So we wanted to bring everyone to the same page. But more importantly, we are also involved in the code making process, in the development of these codes. I personally sit on the technical committee for NFPA 855 for energy storage systems. So I have one of the voices at the table when it comes to the safety standard for installing lithium ion and other energy storage technologies. One of my colleagues here at Local 134 is on code making panel 4 for the National Electrical Code for all the renewable energy articles. We're involved with the UL standards of safety for all of these systems. So not only are we staying up to date to keep our apprentices and our journey level workers engaged and educated on the current systems, we're also involved in that discussion to make sure that what we are installing is safe for the end user, not just the person installing the work. Obviously, safety is number one in anything that we do, but we can't forget about who's going to live with these systems. We can't forget about who's going to have to interact with them beyond installation and maintenance. We do a lot of training with first responders. We've trained over 100 fire departments in Illinois at no cost to them on how to work around solar, energy storage, and electric vehicle fires safely. That's responsible growth of this industry, making sure that everyone that has to engage is properly trained on how to avoid all the hazards. I do want to get to one question that was asked, and it is, do we have enough positions in our apprenticeship programs for all the programs that will be feeding into them, but more importantly, all of the work that's happening? Apprenticeship programs are competitive. There's always more interest than there are open positions. The reason why I want to address this is because I work with developers. Can you get me how many apprentices they need for this particular job that may be a year and a half out? Well, I can't guarantee that these 15 people right now will be available for you. And I think if there are any developers on the call, and I assume there are, when it comes to our numbers for apprenticeship, we are not, and don't take this the wrong way, I'm not saying we're not considering your job. We're bringing people in for a career. Our program is 5 years. So you could say it's a 5-year commitment of the apprentice to go through the program, but we are bringing them in for a career in this industry. So we are looking 10, 20, 30 years out on how many numbers that we need, keeping up with how many people are retiring and the expansion of the industry. So the calculus that we use on our numbers is a bit more involved than we know this one big solar project is coming into our community, because we don't bring people in so they can sit on the bench. The IBEW apprenticeship programs are different from some of the other building trades because we do direct job placement. When they come through our program, they are assigned a contractor, and if there's ever a reduction in force because work gets slow, they are reassigned to another contractor. It's not on the individual apprentice or journey level worker to secure their own employment, right? So we are constantly looking out, and we have increased our numbers, as we all understand that the industry is growing and will continue to grow. But it's just wanted to touch on that it's not just a simple, you have a need right now, because we need to know where they're going to be after that job is completed, that you're currently working on. When it comes to recruitment, can't stress it enough, it was already in this presentation, we need a more diversified workforce. When it comes to the Illinois IBEW Renewable Energy Fund, all of our high schools that we have partnered with are in environmental justice communities. When we get to equity eligible persons, a requirement in CEJA, I will state that we have been doing our work on improving our diversity for decades, not just because a current bill is requiring it, but it is a requirement now. And so any new entity considering apprenticeship, they have to keep this in mind. We've worked with several community-based organizations. One was when we're trying to recruit people that are justice involved or formerly incarcerated. We have since, in the last couple of years, we've partnered directly with Cook County Department of Corrections. We have found we have better results working with that industry directly than going through essentially a middle person, a middle organization to do our recruiting. That has been well. So go to the source, go to the people that need the help. Again, if anyone was in a presentation I did at the RE Plus conference a couple of days ago, we also decided not to reinvent the wheel. We partner with several organizations for that recruiting aspect. So again, we need more women in the trade. We need more people of color in the trade. We need to meet the requirements for our minimum equity standard, but that shouldn't be the reason why we're recruiting, not because the law is requiring it. We should be doing this as a society. And we are doing our part here in Local 134 and the Illinois IBEW Renewable Energy Fund. And I look forward to any questions, comments from anyone on the call. And if anyone's interested in getting involved in our programs, they can also always reach out as well. And it looks like I am over my time. So I will thank everyone at this point, and we will pass it on to the next person.
Thank you very much, Robert. Turn it over to John.
Hey, y'all, good morning. Thanks for letting me be a part of this. It's great. Thanks for that. Robert, that was awesome. Being kind of somewhat on the fringe of all the exciting things happening in energy. It's great to see not just the massive investment, but the committed leaders like yourself to helping mature this, the individuals that are going to carry this into the future. So thank you for that. That was awesome. I'm just going to take a couple minutes. So we're a non-traditional type of apprenticeship, as you've heard here. And when we all started out Social Kitchen, we didn't know that apprenticeship was something, we didn't know anything about it. And we didn't know how important it would become. But first, where am I? So I'm in the Social Kitchen campus now. We actually are a 2.5 acre hospitality incubator, which involves, I'm standing in the restaurant today, and involves a dog park and a food truck park and a commissary. Now also has a crate parlor and an ice cream parlor. And a lot of these capabilities have been expanded as we learned and got very involved in the apprentice program. Our whole idea comes down to what I would call the provocative proposition of, we believe soup kitchens are obsolete. I didn't say unimportant, but when we looked at that problem, especially during COVID, my wife and I got very compelled by how most of the capacity to serve hot, nutritious meals to people in America disintegrated. almost overnight. And the reason is health standards were hard. You couldn't get employees, much less volunteers. And a lot of the folks that did that, they did that out of the goodness of their heart. They were churches, community centers, and they were kind of doing ad hoc. And the problem when you do things ad hoc like that without a professionalized kind of system is any type of adversity tends to blow it away or make it fall in on itself. And that's what's happened. We have growing need in America. We know around hunger. Hunger is a byproduct of it also is closely linked to homelessness, mental illness, and a series of other things. So our idea was, okay, so if we're going to have to rethink this entire thing that we call delivering hot meals to individuals that need them in a moment of need, what could that look like? That led us initially to look at the growth of food trucks, which had been growing nationally, but all of a sudden, especially during COVID, they started to grow exponentially, become a very vibrant business. And the part that was appealing, especially with my military background, was the inherent agility and mobility of it. It's a much smaller enterprise to manage. And so we didn't know anything about it. We're not from hospitality, but we knew there was a problem that needed to be solved. We need to think about it differently. In this case, how do we get at hunger in a more intentional way? And so we, in the beginning part of 2021, we said, okay, let's look at this food truck part. We'll want to start a mission to do this. And it was originally designed to do a single truck. And in that time frame, we realized, well, not quite that simple. We realized that to have a truck to really do it well, you need a system. You need to be able to have support in terms of commercial kitchens. So we then acquired this campus and started building towards what we thought was just serving in the form of food trucks. The biggest thing we discovered in food trucks that led us to apprenticeship is 62% of food trucks in America, despite it being a growing business, fail within 2 years. So 2/3 are gone. And the biggest reason for that, zero standardized training, zero collaborative network. When you're in a truck, as cool as it may be to cook food and as colorful as it may be, you are effectively afraid and alone out there. It may be one thing to learn to cook well, but understanding profit and loss, understanding how to understand the elements of the food service enterprise are very, very different. Even navigating the permits and all the issues that have exasperated across as a result of COVID and made it very difficult. So we said, okay, well, is there like a program on the shelf? So we called the state and they said, nope. We called Department of Labor, and it turns out that the one apprentice, I'm sure there's others, that no one had ever created in the United States of America was a food truck apprentice program. So we said, okay, we'll do it. So again, back to a good old military organized training and equip model, we set out to build that program and taught our first cohort. And in a little over a year ago, we're certified as the first food truck apprentice program, and now what we call Food Truck Academy for the United States of America, partnering with Department of Labor and partnering with the state. What we've seen since then is a massive amount of demand for the program for a number of reasons. One, lots of people are into food service, especially young people. It's an alternative. They're not digging so much working in a kitchen in a restaurant, but if you start to think about how many people want to be creative and they want to have access to a small business and the ability to do something can be, again, the risk factor is far lower. They all lead you to this notion of food trucks. So we've, as we dove into this, what was important is back to our original goal of, can we make an impact in our communities, especially around hot food to individuals struggling, what we call delivering dignified dining, and is a food truck a good venue? So after we solved the training portion of it, we started to attract people into the program. We already had a platform here with a restaurant and a campus. The program grew in popularity. We figured out a simple way to actually involve the community in a tokenized giving program, which was the birth of this thing we call the currency of caring. I'll hold up here and I'll give you the website at the end. But it became a way now for people to be involved in the process of giving hot food, helping to provide a meal, $8 at a time in a token. And we use those to collect. And then when we collect a certain amount here in the restaurant at the time, we would then send a truck to hard to reach places. East St. Louis comes to mind and others, and deliver 100 meals at a time to qualified agencies for free. So that's dignity in the form of hot restaurant quality food that people pay for, delivered to people's zip codes that have probably never seen a food truck, that are caught in the middle of a food desert. So really what it shows is how as we rethink food distribution, food access, and food's only the beginning. It's really services that follow and everything else. In a world that has growing disparity across our nation, it turns out that it's a pretty elegant solution. But we didn't stop there. With the advent of the program, the tokenization, we then realized that and it goes back to our provocative proposition of soup kitchens are obsolete, and the capacity to solve America's problems, especially around food insecurity, we believe are already available and visible in plain sight, not just in the form of food trucks, but also in the form of independent restaurants. So we were in the restaurant business now. What we realized is if we can organize all that capacity in a community and make it available, incentivize our fellow restaurant operators and owners to be in the business of delivering dignity to people and paying them for that, you start to create a virtuous cycle. So if you think about our initial idea and mission of bless the hungry and hurting in our community with free hot restaurant quality food, that led us to the next portion, which is now how can we collaborate with local restaurant partners to magnify our positive impact. Through the currency of caring, we've now grown to 17 different restaurants in the area that now accept this program. And what that means is we've incentivized and we reimburse them. They now have capacity to do it. Some of them have added apprentices. Our food truck program now is, again, has a waiting list to get into it. And then the last part is, as we've taken all this and put it together and put the human part at the center, 65% of our workforce are individuals who we say are have faced either some kind of challenge or barrier through WIOA. So whether it's a single mom, disabled veteran, touched by justice, and we like to say we like to specialize in taking the broken and using programs like the apprentice program and the WIOA program. So we're fully certified workforce development place now for the state and put them in service to broken people. And I bring it full circle. Why? Every single community in America has three things, I guarantee you. They have broken people, someone who has a need. They have food trucks, and they have restaurants. We ultimately, what social kitchens turned into is a model for how communities can rethink. How do we access capacity? How do we organize capacity? How do we deploy capacity? We're using food initially, but the reality is this can be used in a lot of different areas. And fortunately now we have 6 different states that have stepped up and have asked now, how can we do something similar? We're not ready to go there yet. Our idea is let's continue to harmonize our experience here as the state of Illinois. We have a vision to regionalize this capacity. So move from a complex with multiple facilities and a campus to a large food truck commissary that could deploy a lot of capacity, train a lot of capacity. At the same time, it can fulfill some other needs. And it would effectively be a large workforce development training center for apprentices in the area of all things food. That way we could become a center to train for other industries that relate, not just food truck and restaurant. And then the objective of all this is to show how working together, we can create a means, a language, and a model that we can go into communities that need, which is pretty much every community, and help develop a alternative approach to how we think about capacity, access that capacity, incentivize that capacity, and deploy that capacity. So it seems like a lot, but it was a simple idea. I said it was a provocative proposition in the beginning, and that was soup kitchens are obsolete. Again, I didn't say unimportant, and I didn't say it was noble. It just wasn't working. And by the way, I bet you can insert other things that are noble but aren't working in our society right now. And we believe the best solution is grassroots. The best solution is community. It's what I call no more than the 2-county solution. Get one county, then get another county next to it, work together, figure it out, then move it to some other folks. And the workforce development program and the apprentice program has become unexpectedly essential because it now attracts, it incentivizes, it gives people a path to a certification. But the mission is the glue that binds it all together. Our mission of blessing and connecting people through great food is simply a reflection of how a community works together. We're very excited by now the growing national interest in this, but we're committed to right now continuing to focus on let's get it right in the state of Illinois. How does it relate to this conversation? I said I have a waiting list for food trucks. To me, we talk about teaching individuals on the workforce side, training through example, creating a community of interest. That's all the reasons food trucks fail is they don't have a common platform that can be done. They don't have a collaborative of other people that are in the business with them that they can rely on, them, they can talk to. That's been done. And now the part is we want to be good stewards of the community in terms of energy. And so we're very interested in now greenifying, or if you will, creating the first fleet of all electric food trucks. They're very efficient. It starts to improve their business model. My goal is we've grown 6 enterprises, 6 businesses have spawned out of this campus in 2 years. So we're not just about training people. We're about giving them a path to a better life. We simply capitalize them. We now want to move that to, okay, let's expand the way that we do that. And electrification, again, is good for our community, but it's also good for the business owner. And it gives them a more reliable means. And so ultimately, I leave it with, we have somehow stumbled into kind of becoming the vertical integrators of the whole food truck industry. We go from recruiting them to training them to involving them to now we even build the trucks. And that's why I'm grateful for this opportunity to be connected, because the ability to now bring a sustainable solution that can reduce operating costs makes it even likelier that we can get another person out there doing their own hustle in what is far easier to operate than a restaurant. I tell people, if you don't like someone, tell them to open a restaurant. If you love them, tell them to open a food truck, because the restaurant industry is like mission impossible. The food truck industry, properly done, can be a very profitable and very rewarding business. And ultimately, every person in our ecosystem. I leave this meeting to go hopefully sign on our 18th restaurant in an adjoining city. So it tells us there's an unlimited of partners in the physical restaurant side. I'm like, let them have that business. We want to be the propagators of the mobile capacity, because it will be that capacity that will solve our society's challenges, that can reach people that are hard to reach, that can bless people in a zip code that normally doesn't get a lot of traffic. But most importantly, it demonstrates again what the power of innovation can be. And so now the ability to innovate in a space like energy gets me excited, because I'm like, I want to grow as many of those trucks as every one of them is essentially has four wheels that can bring hope and opportunity to neighborhoods everywhere. So it's only been 2.5 years since we started the venture. It feels like 50. Many of you may probably feel the same way, but I can tell you it's very, very exciting. And we're grateful for the apprentice program. We're grateful for the amazing partners we've developed, from DOL to the state, and now getting a chance to meet some of y'all. And we're always looking for other individuals that we can join forces with to make more positive impact for the people in our community who, again, they just need to know they matter, no matter how tough life might be in that moment. And collectively, we can be that symbol of hope and opportunity and grace and kindness. And by the way, nothing communicates it better than a hot, free restaurant quality meal delivered to your place. Or if you come into the restaurant, you can eat for free. That sends the message with no words required. So I'll leave it at that. Thank you very much for the opportunity. And I'm looking forward to working with some of y'all on the next stage of this grant or whatever we're going to end up working together to make the possibility of electric food trucks come real in the state of Illinois first.
Thank you so much, John and Robert. I think you can see why we were really excited to get both of them on. Such inspiring stories of the difference that apprenticeship programs and businesses are making. Love how you talked about not just training for a job, but a career and growing businesses and starting new businesses. The opportunities are huge. We are almost out of time, and I'm hoping people can stay on just a little bit longer. I am going to turn the time over just for a few minutes to Dirk Leffler. And I'm hoping that the inspiration you've heard will help you want to start an apprenticeship program if you don't have one already, or talk with the CEJA program or a navigator about how you can grow and evolve your program to help meet the clean energy needs. So Dirk, I'm going to share my screen again, and I'll turn it over to you to wrap things up. And if people can stay on for a few minutes for a Q&A, we'll be on for that as well.
Yes. Okay. Well, thank you, Linda. I've learned a lot already. It's tremendous to hear from these guys. And I'm going to go through this, try and go through it rather quickly, because I know we have a little time left. So my name is Dirk Leffler. I'm a business service specialist. I've worked with apprenticeship programs now for about 5 years. I have built over a dozen different programs. Most of them were toward small business. A lot of them were in non-traditional occupations. I've done them also for green energy. I did one for a battery repairer with an interstate franchise locally, and then another one with an electrician that actually works on a lot of solar projects. So can we go to the next slide? The first steps, I'm going to give you a few choices here, but the thing that you can do, of course, right here, I've got a few slides here, the Apprenticeship Illinois. You can go to that website. It'll give you a lot of information there. Apprenticeship USA is the national site where you can go, and there's quite a number of things that you can do at that site as well. The third bullet point here, the DOL approved apprenticeship occupations list. There are over 1,000 different occupations, and each one of those are divided down to many, many other sub categories underneath of that. So there's literally thousands and thousands of different occupations that are apprenticeable. I would encourage you to go there. Then there's this Interstate Renewable Energy Council website that I've got listed here. You go there, there's a ton of information. That's one thing about apprenticeships. They are so versatile. There are so many different things that you can use them for, so many different ways that you can apply it, that it will literally give you tons of ideas to go and just read through some of these sites. Can I go to the next slide? Give you a little idea of maybe what you can do and how you can do it. At the Apprenticeship Illinois, or not the Apprenticeship Illinois, but the Apprenticeship USA site, there's a partner finder page. You can actually go there, and here's a little quick hint. You can go to this website, click on the search sponsors tab, put in your state, in this case, Illinois, click search. You'll find over 350 different partners, and this is schools, agencies, individual businesses that have all developed apprenticeships, and they will help you to understand yours. And you can even partner with them in some cases to not have to develop your own, but just use one that's already been developed if it works for you. Next slide, please. These are some steps that you would go through personally if you're going to build your own apprenticeship program. I would say that one of the greatest things that you can do is to get a hold of one of the apprenticeship navigators in Illinois. And I believe we're going to have the last slide here is going to give us that Illinois apprenticeship address, the website. So you can go, and we've got them all over Illinois. But what they will help you do is identify the occupation, usually any occupation that will take more than a year to become proficient at it. And that's in the view of the employer. If it's going to take more than a year, it's probably an apprenticeable occupation. So they'll help you identify that occupation. They'll help you decide who's going to sponsor that apprenticeship, if it's the employer, if it's going to be an educational facility like a community college or a trade school, whatever it might be, who's going to sponsor it. Then they'll go through what kind of approach you're going to take. Is it going to be competency-based, time-based, or hybrid program? You'll look at those kind of things with the apprenticeship navigator. And then we'll move into the development phase, which is to put together a list of competencies. That's called the work process schedule. And then also what kind of training, what kind of education is going to come on board and be matched with this. That's called the related training instruction, or related technical instruction. They call it RTI. Will help you go through that. Then also you'll go into the actual program requirements and the policies of the program, and you will get hooked up with a local apprenticeship and training representative from the Department of Labor, and we'll work together with them to put the last pieces of the puzzle together, finish up the paperwork. Then we'll submit that program to the Illinois Office of Apprenticeship for their signature. When they sign off on it, you now have a DOL registered apprenticeship program. All of that is at no cost to the sponsor. So we will do that since we are grant funded. We'll also give you help on how to recruit, hire, and train apprentices to put them into the actual program. And we'll work on helping you understand the reporting and record keeping that you will need to accomplish after the fact. That's all done because the Department of Labor will issue a credential to the apprentice when they graduate from the program. And in order to track the apprentice's progress, there's a particular website you can go to, and you will periodically report their progress. When it's all over, the DOL can offer the credential. So it's a very good program. It leads to great results for the employer and the apprentice. The Department of Labor has found a better than 90% retention rate with apprentices after they finish their program. They usually stay with the employer. The last slide, please. This is the place that you want to go with the Illinois WorkNet website, where you can find all of the navigators. I'm there, my contact information, along with navigators all over the state. If you have a question, you want to contact somebody, go to the Illinois WorkNet site. There's going to be a place where you can click on Illinois Apprenticeship, and you can find us. It's usually through the Employers tab. This page will come up. So I'll leave it at that, and I'll open it up for anyone that has any questions. I hope that you found this whole presentation very interesting. This is National Apprenticeship Week, and a lot of this is going on around the state. It's a good program, and I encourage you to get involved. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dirk. And we are happy to take questions for the CEJA folk from the for the CEJA folks, as well as our presenters. Want to thank once again Robert, Dirk, and John for joining us. We're really excited to have more conversations with all of you. And again, please reach out if you'd like to contact a regional administrator or a energy transition navigator. We'll be sharing our slides with all of the registered attendees of this webinar, and we hope to connect with you. Any questions? You can go ahead and raise your hand or type a question in the chat.
Now, I know we haven't done such a great job that nobody has any questions.
Joanne asks, can Robert and John share their contact information?
I'll just type in our email here.
Okay.
If that works.
That works. And again, very inspiring presentations.
Let me see if I can get this thing to type for you.
Okay, we've got another question. I'm a high school counselor. How can I connect with Robert and John to help my seniors that are interested in the trades and or apprenticeships?
So there's
Anyone
an email
want to
address.
take that one? Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's, so we were, I just from our end, I can say that, part of these things, one is like universities and others are often have like Bob and I got to do, is just bring you a 10-15 minute kind of virtual event where they can hear, students can hear at a grassroots level what the real opportunity is from the folks, and ideally understand some of the broader applications. So those tend to be the easier ways to be able to do that. We also have other resources out there. One of the things I'd suggest is, at least on our end, we are fortunate to be like on Food is Love episode. So there's a series of resources we can make available that may be interesting to then talk about, hey, here's examples of this, but maybe through a different medium. So we're not necessarily talking, they see it through a TV show or they see it through the various, and that might be one of the easier ones. So if anyone's interested on our end with what we're doing, I think emailing me the kind of things that you're looking for, and then I can provide you some inputs on ways we might be able to assist you in encouraging young people to look at apprentices or look at non-traditional paths.
Thank you. Robert, do you want to add anything about how high schools can connect with you about connecting their students to your apprenticeship program?
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm sure we have people in the audience all across the state too, right? We're not just talking about Cook County. So I would encourage anyone to contact their local IBEW. We have 17 different apprenticeship schools in the state of Illinois. My contact info is up on the chat there, my email address. I work with all 17 of them on solar training. So if you don't know which one of our locals covers your area, you can always reach out and I can make that formal connection there. But one thing I want to say, and I see another question in here too. I just lost it because another one came through. About how our apprenticeships advertised. That is something that we do a lot of career events. A lot of other locals do. A lot of other building trade locals do too, not just the IBEW here. We're always getting in front of people. And the opportunities for these apprenticeship programs have always been there. It's been the awareness of the programs that's been the disconnect. And I think I explained that well in my story, how I found this later in life, and I really wish I had found it right out of high school as well. But getting in front of the counselors is something that we've been trying to do. I know they have statewide organizations as well to let them know, because historically people say, well, you're not ready for college. It must be the trades for you. So here's this one brochure. And honestly, I think that paradigm has shifted. I think right now is if you are graduating high school and you are ready to join the workforce and become part of that full workforce out there, you need to go right into the trades. If you haven't decided what you want to do yet, that's really what college is shifting into. Unless you already, I mean, people have passions and they follow them, but we're seeing a lot of people that go that traditional path because they haven't made that decision yet. And I don't blame them. Being 17 years old, you don't necessarily know what you want to do for the rest of your life, right? But that's the pressure we put upon our high school students. So again, I don't think this is either or. I think people can do both college and apprenticeships. Both have their own rewards. But I think we need to focus on that, is the people that want to get out there and join the workforce. That is the apprenticeship model right there.
Thank you very much, Robert. Just noting that they're also asking for websites or flyers, so maybe we can connect and share that with maybe we can share that with the attendees so that they can see
Actually,
your programs.
Can I make one comment too?
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, I'm not a social media person, so I don't have all of our handles memorized, but we're on Twitter and Facebook and Instagram, all those. So look for the Illinois IBEW Renewable Energy Fund. I believe it's IBWREF at all of them, but I'm not quite sure. One thing I did not mention, I wanted to mention, is because this is National Apprenticeship Week, our apprenticeship school for Local 134, which is in Alsip, Illinois, 115th and Ridgeland, we are having an open house tomorrow and Saturday, open for anyone to come and see our training center.
Nice.
I can share a flyer I have that Linda, if you don't mind sending out to people if they want to, if they're local and want to come see our school. But we are having an open house both tomorrow and Saturday.
We'll share that. That would be great. Thank you. Another question that we got, our company, it's non-union, works with the IEC to put solar employees through the electrical apprenticeship, but it is not a DOL, Department of Labor registered apprenticeship. What are the perks of a company having their own internal apprenticeship outside of partnering with the IEC? And I don't know if Robert or Dirk would be interested in answering this question.
Well, I actually work with a company that has two apprenticeships. One of them is registered under their own name, and the other one actually is an apprenticeship where they are partnering with another group that has the apprenticeship. So they're just sending their employees to that other apprenticeship. And they are satisfied with both of them. Depending on what your needs are, either one can work. If you have an apprenticeship that's registered under your own company, you have more control of it. And then also when it comes to finding the educational component that's going to be part of your apprenticeship, if the program is your own program, well, then it's quite versatile as far as where you can get that various different education from. You can choose, you can find it in different areas. Sometimes it's a local college, sometimes a trade school, sometimes not. I have apprenticeships where they are receiving their education online. So you do have a lot more control over a program if it is registered under your own name. Now, if it's a registered apprenticeship program, whether it's registered under yourself or whether it's registered through another provider, it should lead to a Department of Labor credential at the end. So that can happen either way, but I would advise, if you do have an apprenticeship, to make sure it's a registered one, because that credential helps that apprentice stay motivated in the program. Just like going to college, a lot of times you stay in that program because you're working toward that degree. Well, that DOL credential means something. And if you're working toward that, it can help your retention rate when it comes to keeping people into your program.
Thanks, Dirk. Robert, was there anything you wanted to add on that question?
Yeah, I would say that for joining a program, do the research where that leads and what are the outcomes, right? That portable credential is a key component. A Department of Labor electrical apprenticeship is recognized all throughout the U.S. and Canada. And for us within the IBEW, that opens up the possibility of working in all of those local throughout the entire country. If you just have a single employer apprenticeship, that credential may stay with that company or may not be recognized if you're looking for employment elsewhere. So always look at the overall benefit of the program. I mean, earn while you learn is great. You're earning money, but it is a significant time commitment. So you want to make sure at the end of it, you're where you want to be. I do want to address another question that was on here. I got to find it again because we're getting more. Somebody did ask if does a person have to be an A card to get into solar, or can a C card get into solar? So to clarify that question, and I don't know if this came to me direct or no, it didn't. We have two apprenticeship programs with the IBEW. We have our construction A card, and we have our communications electrician, which is the C card or communication program. For the installation of photovoltaic systems, energy storage, all this technology, that is a construction work. However, especially on the larger systems, the communication members also get work out of this because of all the data monitoring on these systems that's required for our state incentive programs and for utilities and community solar sites for their monitoring needs as well. So there is work for both areas within here. I always look at what is your goal. If you're already a C member, that's a great way to get in the solar industry. But if you're deciding between the two, the A card can do all electrical work, including the communications work. So I hope that answers that question. And then there's one question under that about the apprenticeships. If solar is a separate apprenticeship, it has been numerous times stated as a non-apprenticeable trade by the Department of Labor, the National Department of Labor, because it already is within the electrical industry, essentially. These are all electrical generation, distribution, and storage systems. So that has not been classified as a separate trade. There are other trades that will offer solar training. I do have to recognize that. I don't know of any in Illinois that actually have it as a core part of their apprenticeship, like we have within the IBEW, but they do have classes for upgrades but the air it regulates who can install photovoltaic systems, and it's the Illinois Commerce Commission Distributed Generation Installer List, and it is the DOL Electrical Apprenticeship is the only apprenticeship program that is recognized as a pathway for a qualified person.
Thank you, Robert. And I do want to call out that, you know, carpenters, construction laborers, roofers, they're all involved in installing solar. Like you said, is this an opportunity? If you are involved in one of those apprenticeship programs or those trades, is this an opportunity to add solar training to that apprenticeship program to grow the workforce? Recognizing that a lot of the work, like you said, is done by electrical workers. So there's, I don't know that I would call it a workaround, but there are apprenticeship programs that are existing that are helping to meet this need, and we'd like to see more of them. Let's see, other messages, other questions. Do you see DOL eventually recognizing solar apprenticeships?
If I can address that
Dirk?
real quick.
Go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. The solar apprenticeship, you know, I mentioned that there's over 1,000 apprenticeable occupations, and then those are divided into categories. Well, you can go on the apprenticeship.gov site. You can find where you can search for different types of apprenticeships. But what that primarily means is that when somebody registers an apprenticeship, let's say in Illinois, if you work with a navigator, we sit down with you. If you're the unions, they have their apprenticeships pretty well developed, and they have been benefiting from those for literally generations. So that is an excellent way for people to go. But if you're a smaller company and maybe you're a non-union type of company and you're looking to work on solar projects, that's quite possible. And you can develop an apprenticeship, register it under your own company, and we can put solar into that apprenticeship as some of the skills that the apprentice is going to have to master before they graduate from the program. Now, you would have to choose also where you're going to get the education to teach that skill to the apprentice as they're going through the program. But it's quite possible So that would be a solar apprenticeship that you could register with the DOL. It would be using the electrical code, you might say, and I don't mean the electrical code from the standards of electrical codes that are out there, but the code from the government when it comes from DOL. The DOL has a code for every occupation out there. So it would be using the DOL's code for an electrician, which is an approved apprenticeship program. We would just tweak that program for a specific company's needs. And if solar is part of their needs, we would put that into the program so they could actually build their own solar program if they desire to. So that might seem confusing, but I would advise you to talk to a navigator and see how that can be done. We can put programs together that would include solar.
Thanks, Dirk. Definitely need more conversations about it. My understanding is that solar installer training, just focused on that installer, is typically just a few months long to get kind of the NABCET PV associate. And because of the length of the program, the short length of the program, it doesn't meet DOL registered apprenticeship requirements. But you know, as I think Dirk and Robert have said, there's opportunities to integrate solar into maybe some larger programs that are training a little bit more broadly, which isn't a bad idea in itself, to not be limited to just the installation of solar. Let's see, any other messages?
Yeah, we have one more in here about the credentials and whether they include mandatory managerial training. I don't know if Dirk or be a good
Yeah,
one
I'm looking. What was that question now?
Apprenticeship programs are generally considered to be skills focused, but apprentices in these programs are likely to need business management training as well. Do these portable credentials have mandatory managerial training? Not only do we need people with new skills, but also they need to know how to go and grow new businesses to meet new market demand.
Okay, sure, Nate. I get that. When a company sets up an apprenticeship, you, as the apprenticeship sponsor, are in control of what the skills look like for that apprenticeship. So if your company, or if that specific apprenticeship, let's say the food truck apprenticeship with John Michael there, if they wanted to have a certain amount of managerial training, whatever it might be, whatever they consider is important for that apprentice to learn, if they want that to be part of the program, we would certainly write it into the program, and they would have control over what it looks like. So yes, anything that you value as an employer or as an apprenticeship sponsor that you think is important for that apprentice to learn can be included in the program.
And I think we saw a great example. Go ahead, John. Yeah.
I was going to say, you know, half of the program is actually managerial, or it's actually how to run a business. It's not the food part. In our example is actually the easy one, but the high failure rate has little to do with preparing food. It has to do with everything else associated with managing, thinking about a business, and understanding those cycles. So I would think, yeah, there's no industry now that can be insulated from understanding at least some basic level of principle. And for us, it's actually at least half of what we focus on.
Yeah, and I'll add in our program too. So the later years of our apprenticeship, we do get into foreman training and all that, where they're taking more of a still field position, but managerial as well. But then we also have services where we support our members that decide to start their own businesses too. There's additional classes they can take outside of the traditional 5-year apprenticeship. That is an important thing. It's that upward and outward mobility. We're not training everyone, even though there's nothing wrong with staying in the field your entire career. But there's lots of other positions in the electrical industry we're preparing people for. My story is an example of that. I went from the field to a foreman to, I did actually pursue starting my own business, but then I became a teacher and now a business rep and the director of our statewide program. So you never know where your career is going to take. That's one thing I always point out. I met with our apprentices that are currently in class last Monday, And I pointed to the doors that were right there. I said, those are the same doors I walked through 20 years ago that you walked through. You never know where your career is going to go. Not everyone has entrepreneurial spirit to start their own company, but a lot of them do. And we got to make sure that we're addressing that and providing any services that we can.
Thank you, Robert. I think we're going to close. You've all been really good sports by hanging on an extra half hour. If you do have other questions, don't hesitate to reach out. We'll send a follow-up email with all of the presenters' contact information and some of the resources we shared, including our slides. So we hope to be able to connect with you and answer any additional questions you have. Thank you very much. And thanks again to our presenters.
Thank you all.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
All right, bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.